during the Zoom call. We're still transitioning across. Okay, we're nearly there. Okay, welcome and good evening. We are live now on YouTube. Welcome to Wincanton Town Council. This is a full council meeting on the 27th of July, beg your pardon, at 7 p.m. There is an awful lot of background noise. Please can I ask, if you're not on mute, that you consider putting yourself on mute to enable others to hear. So before we commence the meeting, firstly, can I check that everyone has had access to papers? Can you affirm by putting your hand up to say you've received papers, for councillors in particular, but also members of the public? Thank you. Thank you. In addition, before we continue into the full agenda, I just want to make you aware, as part of public participation, this is an item that's not in part of the full agenda, that's for 20 minutes. So everyone who speaks in public participations will have 3 minutes to speak. So at 3 minutes, I will be ending that so that other residents have an opportunity to speak at that time, and we will not go beyond 20 minutes in total. So it's now 2 minutes past 7, and I'd now like to move into, one moment, we just have another person joining. Now moving into public participation. Yes, Councillor Winder, you have your hand up. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, it's to do with item 10, which you label neighbourhood plan.
Yes.
What is going on at the moment is a review of the local plan.
Oh, Councillor Winder, may I interrupt you for a moment? You have an item. Would you like to speak in public participation, or is this something you'd like to speak to during your element of the agenda, where you're giving a? Sorry.
We need to get involved in the review of the local plan,
Yes.
and rather than label it as a neighbourhood plan, it's the district council's local plan, which is pushing another 600 houses onto Wincanton.
Thank you, Councillor Winder. So moving into the actual public participation. So I've noted your comment, Councillor Winder. So public participation, those members of the public who wish to speak, can you now put your hand up? So I have Howard Elliott, Ella, Julia Hammond and Liz Carter. There are 2 people on this call that currently have a black screen. That's our deputy clerk who's noting the meeting tonight, and Ian Phillips. I beg your pardon. I now know everyone on the call. So if I now move to public participation, can I invite Howard Allard to speak, please, as a resident of Wincanton?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. I understand that your personnel committee received a complaint regarding the behaviour of the chair on the 18th of June. Yet on the 22nd of June this year, you dissolved the personnel committee that should have dealt with this complaint. That sounds rather odd to me. And tonight you appear to be intending to resurrect that committee. Can I ask why that committee was ever dissolved? Surely any complaint needs to be heard by the committee standing at the time of the complaint and under the policies and procedures that were in place at the time. Any retrospective changes must be inappropriate and smack of legitimising things after the event. At the meeting of the 13th of July, one of your members tried to bring up the complaint so that it could be discussed at this meeting, following a specific request from the chair for suggestions of items for this agenda. That councillor was unceremoniously muted by the chair. How can this look anything other than unacceptable? At your extraordinary meeting last week, you discussed whether or not to appoint a locum clerk for that meeting. As you already had the prospective clerk in the room, it is difficult to believe that the conclusion of the discussion was not preordained. Since you hadn't yet agreed to appoint a locum clerk, how can I be assured that any normal procurement procedures have been followed? And may I remind you, this is public money that you are spending. There is every chance that you will need to seek external legal advice to deal with these matters, but I believe that the whole sorry affair of mishandling of the council can be resolved by a change of chair. Why are you continuing to protect the chair's vanity and spending more public money on doing so? Which community projects that you have budgeted to do will suffer as a consequence? And what is the price of keeping this mayor in the chair? That's my lot.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Liz Carter to speak, please.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hello. I'm not as familiar with Zoom as some of you. I'd like to ask the chair and the councillors to think back to the meeting of the 13th of July. And I would like to ask those who were present to consider apologising to Councillor Thomas and Councillor Greening for failing to follow the correct procedure in the handling of their Christmas decoration proposal and the tendering process. This failure exposed them and their businesses to criticism by members of the public and could have adversely affected their current reputation as men of integrity who do a huge amount of work on behalf of the town. I raised my concerns on this procedural error in an email to all councillors the day after the meeting. I personally apologise to Councillors Thomas and Greening if my email may have highlighted their unwitting involvement in any way. My concern for them was heightened by the inevitable scrutiny of the public, particularly in light of the large viewing figures on YouTube. Any tendering process, you're dealing with public money, it must be whiter than white. Can we assume that as chair, going forward, you will advise yourself of correct chairing processes in order to safeguard your councillors, employees, contractors, and members of the public from such failures in the future? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And can I ask, are there any other members of the public who now wish to speak? Julian Hammond has put his hand up. And then next is Ian Phillips. Okay, so I'm going to start the clock at 3. Yes, I'd like to invite you to speak, Julian Hammond.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me here today. It's Julian Hamlin, by the way.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Your feed is very interrupted, so please bear that in mind.
Okay, I'll make it as brief as I can. Anyway, I'd like to speak about how the town council approaches planning. I'm doing this with reflections upon the Shatterwell Woodlands Action Group. So this is the planning application down at the bottom of North Street. Moving forwards of that, you're talking about a planning committee. I know Ian is talking about that. I think that's a great idea. I've come here today with some, I hope, constructive things to say about that. First of all, just a few key points. Really, councillors should know the details of what they're being asked to vote on. That didn't happen in the case of this particular planning application. And I note it didn't happen last week when you voted on some changes to the details of the planning for the potential care home in the park. You were talking about not knowing whether they were interior or exterior changes. You felt they might be interior, but you voted on them anyway. And while I don't want to be highly critical of you guys, because you are doing an awful lot for the community, and I really mean that, we've got to do it properly. And so I would say we've got to be aware of what we're voting on when we're voting. Second thing is, all planning applications discussed must be on the agenda. Otherwise, the public don't know what you're going to discuss. At the extraordinary meeting, this particular planning down on North Street was not on the agenda, and it did not give the public chance to speak on it. Surprise, surprise, a few days later, 100 people, 100 of your residents came forward and said they did not agree with this. Third point, there must be proper engagement with the residents, meaning that there should be sufficient time between advisory letters going out from SSDC and the matter being discussed by town council. In the case of North Street, it was 2 days. That's not enough. Fourth point, where are the applications, where there are applications that are repeat applications, in other words, where there's a history to a particular application, I feel that it would be useful for the town council and the planning committee to have a view on what the previous policy was for the town council and whether there have been any material changes. And also to have a view of what the residents think. We all spoke at the previous application that this particular person on North Street made, and it was overwhelmingly rejected. And yet again, with very little material change, it was just passed on a nod. Now,
Hello,
with that in
Julian, I'm
mind,
sorry,
I've
you're now going over 3 minutes. So
got
can
one question to ask you. And then I will go and leave you in peace to carry on, because I don't want to be critical here. I want this town council to function well. You guys give your time up for this. It deserves to function well, and you deserve to be seen in a good light, every one of you. So I want to ask you, I had a conversation with the mayor, with Sue. I had a conversation with you. Unfortunately, I have not been able to have subsequent conversations. You haven't returned my calls, but still. I had a conversation with you after the event, and you said to me that the matter was passed as a strategic decision because it was felt that the houses would be passed for development on that plot on the bank of the River Cale anyway. And the overwhelming feeling was that 2 houses would be better than 4. Now, I personally feel that no houses is better than 2. I would just, my final point, my final question to
I'm sorry,
every
you've
one
now
of you-
gone, you've now gone well
That's
over
my
3
question.
minutes.
That is my question. That's my question. Please, every councillor now, each one of you in turn, tell me, is that what you understood of your vote? Was it strategic? Did you really mean that 2 houses is better than 4? Is that what you voted for? Because it's not in the minutes, the meeting wasn't recorded, and I think 100 residents would just like to understand, not to criticise, it's your vote and it's your view, but to understand why you made the decision that you did and why you reversed the previous town council decision. I think that's all we're asking for. We're not
Thank you.
criticising it, we're
Thank
just
you.
asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and you're welcome to stay. But please, can I ask if there's background noise, you mute yourself. But other than that, you're
Okay.
welcome to stay. Please,
That's
can I
no
now?
problem. Are we going to have the answer? Are they going to answer me?
No, not at the moment. Thank you. Can I just
Why not?
invite now?
Why? I've
Julian,
come here to ask a question. Can they answer me, please? I've
not
come
at
to
the
ask a
moment. I would
question.
like to move to
Why?
our next resident, please. Can
Why
I
are you
invite?
not
I'm going
answering?
to have to mute you, I'm afraid, because we
I'll
need to
mute
move on to our
myself,
next
but I'm
resident.
not going.
Before I move on to you, Ian, Councillor Tudgay, do you wish to speak? No. All right. Can I now move to Ian Phillips and invite you to unmute? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take rather less time. Just a simple question. A reputable employer has a duty of care to its employees. And I'd just like to seek clarification of what the occupational health provision is for employees of the town council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask that you mute yourself unless the noise in the background is clear. So at this time, we are now well into our meeting. We have about 4 minutes. What I'd like to say is firstly to thank you for your participation and to note the comments you've made, because some of this will be covered in our agenda today and in actions that we're taking forward across the council. What I would like to do is move now on to our apologies for the meeting. And can I ask our deputy clerk, please, to unmute so I can talk to you directly? And can you also put your camera on, please?
That'd be fun. Hold on. Oh, is that it?
Clerk, would you like, Deputy Clerk, would you like some help? I'll look to see if I can actually turn on. Mate, where have you gone? You've moved. Oh, welcome. Thank you. So moving on to point 1 of the agenda, apologies. Can I invite you to state apologies, please?
I haven't got any apologies at the minute.
Thank you. Moving on to point 2 of the agenda, declarations of interest. Can I invite members to declare any interest they may have in any agenda items in accordance with our code of conduct? So today, are there any agenda items you need to actually make council aware of that you have a conflict with? No? So no items will be recorded against that. If we now move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. So the minutes of the previous meeting took place on the 13th of July, and they were live streamed onto YouTube. So colleagues and residents may well have seen those. Firstly, I would like to draw attention to, now that public participation has now closed. Sorry, Councillor Oh, do you wish to speak?
Hello, yes, I do. I've got 4 points I'd like to raise, please. Would you like to answer the questions after I raise them, or wait until you hear all of it? I don't mind either way.
Well, our normal process is that we go through page by page.
Correct, but I do want to address some of the previous minutes, I'm afraid, and this is the only
Yes.
place in the meeting I can do so.
Indeed, but can I ask you if we follow the due process we normally do, which is to go through each point in turn, and as council, I will ask you for amendments to each page, and then we will have a discussion about each amendment. So can I do the normal process we would normally follow, please?
I'm talking about
So-
previous minutes, so Sue.
Yes,
So
I know you are. I'm talking about page 1. So if I may, everyone has copies of the minutes that were shared with them. So if we start at 009 on the 13th of July, page 1, and we then move to page 1 and any items on page 1 you wish to draw attention to in terms of amendments. If you wish to make an amendment, please can I ask you put your hand up. So page 1. One moment, someone's just coming into our meeting, so I'm just going to allow them in. If there are no amendments to page 1, we're moving to page 2. Commencing 00110, picnic in the park 0035. And page 2, does anyone wish to, Councillor Ralph?
Hello, hi.
Before you speak, Councillor Ralph, there appears to be noise on this call. Can I ask that you mute if there are people talking in the background, because it makes it difficult for everyone to hear? Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Ralph.
No worries. I would like to propose some additions to the minutes under section 0038. It's funny people talk about how many times our last meeting's been watched, because I'm at least 12 of them, I think. But yeah, so I've prepared these by watching back the meeting, because when I read the minutes, it's actually 16 minutes of our meeting, and I didn't feel it properly fleshed out what happened. So would you like me to read what I'd like added on?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it's 3 separate sentences. Number 1, After a request for clarity, the clerk advised that the councillors presenting the projects can neither propose, second or vote due to pecuniary interests. Happy for me to continue?
Yes.
Okay, number 2, the clerk further advised that the amount was below the £5,000 limit, requiring a tender process. And then number 3, there was a discussion and broad agreement that this decision would be revisited in August when we have a more detailed picture of the COVID-19 situation, but with enough time for schools to make necessary logistical plans to progress this project. And I'm happy to email those as well to the Deputy Clerk if they're accepted as amendments or changes, additions.
So let's take each point in turn to make sure that everyone is happy. So in terms of the points that Councillor Ralph has made, do councillors have any comments related to those? Councillor Vagg. You need to unmute, I'm afraid.
Yeah, sorry. Just the bit about the tender, there was another comment in there about the proposals being so specialist, I think the word was, that there wouldn't be, from the clerk, that there wouldn't be much point putting them to tender because they were such specialist items. And
yeah,
then she went on to say about 5,000.
Thank you.
It was
Councillor
unique.
Ralph?
The word was unique, I think.
Okay,
Proposals.
thank you. Clerk, Deputy Clerk.
Hello.
Hi. Did you capture that?
I captured Vicky's, yeah, and I'll wait for Councillor Ralph's.
Okay. What I would say now then is, how would you like to proceed with this, Deputy Clerk? Would you like to take each amendment and vote on it in terms of a proposer, a seconder and a vote from council? Or do you want to do it as for the page, for example? How would you like to proceed?
I would do it per page, I think.
Per page.
Yeah, do it per page.
In terms of councillors on this meeting, are you happy to enable us to do that, to review each page and vote on each page and its amendments? Yes, Councillor Auld.
Well, I have tried to add my points, and now I am going to add my points. At the meeting on the 13th of July, I tried to raise the fact that we had a complaint against the chair of this
sorry,
council.
look, I'm Councillor Rose.
don't
No, you're
interrupt
welcome to
me.
speak, but you're not speaking on the right
I am
page, are you?
Now, Sue, please
Okay, you can speak now. Please feel free.
interrupting.
No,
Thank
not
you.
at all. Please feel free.
Thank you. So on the 13th of June, I tried to raise the fact that we had a complaint against the chair of this committee under correspondence, which does need to be dealt with. I would like that minuted, please. So if we are talking about pages, that is on this page under item, as you've interrupted me so many times, Sue, unfortunately I have lost my place, but this is under item 0043 correspondence.
Thank you.
Which is on page 3, which we haven't actually come to yet. So that's probably why you haven't been invited to speak yet. So I apologise if you felt that. Councillor Auld, you need to unmute if you wish to speak.
All I'm saying is that I had 4 points to raise. You interrupted me at the front. And if I'd been able to raise my points then you would have known them all and known which order they were going to go in. I'm sorry, but I've still got points to raise about the 26th of May, the 8th of June.
Right. Firstly, I'm going to invite Councillor Ralph to speak, and then I'm going to speak with the clerk, the deputy clerk. So Councillor Ralph.
I was simply going to say, because obviously we're halfway through sorting out my changes or additions. Have we missed anything on page 1, Councillor? Sorry, Chair, to address Councillor Auld directly. Have we missed anything on page 1 yet, Councillor Auld? Want to go back to?
Not for me, sorry. Mine
Okay,
is under
that's fine.
0043 for this
Okay.
meeting, but I do want to go back to the previous minutes, Lizzie, which should really have been done before we dealt with these minutes.
Okay, well, I don't know about the standing orders for that, so I won't get involved in that one. But yeah, okay. So sorry, Chair.
Right, so far as I'm aware, page 1 of the minutes of the 13th of July, there are no proposed amendments. If we move to page 2, under 0038, Councillor Ralph has proposed 3 items for amendment or additions. I beg your pardon, additions. You mentioned additions. And in addition, Councillor Vag raised a point of clarity around unique services or unique commissioning items. I don't know what words were used then. So rather than recount those, I'm going to move to the Deputy Clerk to report those back, please.
Yeah, Lizzie raised the 3 points. You were going to ask the addition. Were you going to state that they were going to go on to the be added to the minutes? And then Vicky, like you said, the clerk said there's no point in doing the proposal because it's so specialist. As the yeah, because the proposal was unique that Councillor Green and Councillor Thomas had put them forward.
Can I ask them, because it's not clear from the notes that have been provided by the Deputy Clerk, I'm sorry, Muriel, just for clarity purposes, can I ask you again, Councillor Ralph, to reiterate the points you've made, and for Councillor Vag to reiterate the points you've made so that there's clarity before we propose and second and vote on that amendment if there are no further amendments to page 2. So Councillor Ralph, could you please?
Yeah, that's fine. That's completely fair because I appreciate they're quite long. So number 1. Ready? After a request for clarity, the clerk advised that the councillors presenting the projects can neither propose, second, or vote due to pecuniary interests.
Thank you.
So number 2. The clerk further advised that the amount was below the £5,000 limit requiring a tender process.
Thank you.
And then this is the longest one, Muriel, I'm sorry. There was discussion and broad agreement that this decision will be revisited in August when we have a more detailed picture of the COVID-19 situation, but with enough time for schools to make the necessary logistical plans to progress this project.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ralph. So, Councillor Vag. Could you unmute? Thank you.
Pressing the wrong button, sorry. Yes, just in respect of Lizzie's second point, there was also a comment from the clerk that these proposals were these projects were so unique that it would be very difficult to send them to tender.
Thank you. And Councillor Tudgay, you wish to now speak? Can I ask you to unmute, please?
Chair, I believe Councillor Galitzine has been trying to attract your attention for some little while.
Thank you, Ray.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Councillor Galitzine.
That's all right.
There's a lot of squares on the screen tonight.
I just wanted to say that the points that Lizzie's made, I concur from my own notes and my recollection of the conversation. So I believe they're to be correct.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is we've had outlined very clearly from Councillor Ralph, Councillor Vag, and supported by Councillor Gazine, that the amendments that were being proposed in terms of additions are a true record. I'm now being, Councillor Hearn, you would like to speak?
I'm not dating Lizzie's right, or Vicky or Elaine for that matter. But unless I watch it again, I don't want to vote until I know exactly for myself, because I don't recall it. Not exactly. I'm sure you're right, Lizzie. Nothing. But I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on something that I don't personally recall myself.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Power, would you unmute?
I'll second Lizzie's proposal.
So the proposal is, as outlined by Councillor Ralph, and we'll go with that one first, and then we'll add Councillor Vagg's comment about unique services. So it's proposed by Councillor Gazine and seconded by Councillor Power. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that's fine.
And in terms of a vote, can I ask that councillors vote in support or against the motion put forward by Councillor Ralph to amend the minutes to include the addition stated? So, Councillor Gazine, are you voting or do you wish to speak?
No, voting.
Voting, right. So I'm going to go around the screen, and there are lots of boxes today, so please bear with me. So I'm going to start with Councillor Ralph, myself, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, Councillor Tudgay, then I'm moving to Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas are in support of the proposal. Councillor Edington has just rejoined the meeting.
And me too.
Councillor Power as well has voted in support.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Thank you.
10.
Are you happy with that, Deputy Clerk?
Yep.
Thank you. And against, those against the proposal put forward by Councillor Ralph? I currently can see no hands up. If you are voting against and for some reason I can't see you on the screen, can you now verbally say you wish to vote against? And now abstaining, those individual councillors who wish to abstain from the vote. So I have Councillor Hearn, Councillor Rogers and Councillor Hinks, Councillor Old and Councillor Edington are voting to abstain. So Deputy Clerk, have you recorded that appropriately?
Yep, 10 for and 5 abstains.
10 for and 5 abstained.
Yep.
Thank you. So now we're going to take the comment put forward by Councillor Vagg. So in support of Councillor Vagg's amendment, can I ask that councillors put their hand up now? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I've lost my perspective. I beg your pardon. Please tell me if I've missed something, because I'm finding it difficult to see you all and follow process. So in terms of this meeting tonight, please can I ask for Councillor Vagg's proposal, can I have a proposer, which is Councillor Tudgay? Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gazine, and can I have a vote from the floor if you're supporting the proposal put forward by Councillor Vagg? So that is Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Power, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas. Thank you. Are you happy with that, Deputy Clerk?
Yes, I am, thank you.
And those against, so can you put your hand up if you're against the proposal put forward by Councillor Vagg? So against, I have Councillor Old. I can only see one against. Councillor Old, that still remains. If you put your hand down before I move away, is still against. And abstaining, please. Those councillors who wish to abstain. So I have Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks. I have Councillor Hearn, Councillor Smith, and Councillor Edington. Thank you. So Clerk, can I ask you to recite the voting for that, please?
9 for, 1 against and 5 abstentions.
Thank you. So that's page 2. Are there any other comments on page 2 before I move on? Thank you. So now I'm moving to page 3, starting in 0040. So can I ask for any comments related to page 3? Councillor Old, you wish to now speak? Please unmute.
Yes, I do. So page 3, this is where I want to register the fact that I want it recorded, that once again, I tried to raise the complaint against yourself that had been presented to myself as chair of the personnel committee, and I want it recorded in the minutes because it will be called upon in a court of law. Thank you.
So now I'm going to move. Are there any other comments you wish to make on this page, on page 3, Councillor Old? Is that the one comment you wish to make?
That's the one comment for this page, correct.
And this is the amendment you wish to make, and it's related to
0043, where you are, sorry, actually, that's the wrong one. It's where you ask for items for the next agenda. So it's actually after 0043, it's 0044, items for consideration.
So that's page 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll revisit that in a moment.
Sorry, I'm working off an iPhone, so for me it doesn't show pages. It's all one long continuous thing. But if it's like page 4, then I apologise. Okay, but to me it's 0044. That's where I want to record the amendment.
So, councillors, in terms of supporting this amendment, Councillor Ralph, can I invite you to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to urge my fellow councillors, can we discuss the wording of this amendment very carefully, because we're very close to breaching confidentiality, and I'm very aware of our responsibilities in that area. So though I do not object to this being discussed as an amendment and an accurate addition to the minutes, if that is the case, let's just be very cautious now, please, because this is an open meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ralph. That's a very good point, and confidentiality is key. Councillor Vagg, do you wish to comment?
Yes, I think the problem here is that Councillor Old has tried to raise this matter 1 or 2 times and has been stopped simply because it is confidential and shouldn't be raised an open meeting. So I don't want people to think that anything's being covered up. It's just inappropriate for an open council meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Ralph, you wish to speak again?
Yes, listening to Councillor Vagg, it gave me an idea for Councillor Old to consider, which is I would like to propose that we suggest that Councillor Old tried to raise something which, due to confidentiality, she was not able to, and therefore, as a council, we stopped her doing that. Whether she'd like to consider that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but members of the public participation has closed, and you are now unable to speak during the meeting unless invited to speak. Liz Carter, I'm afraid you cannot speak in this part of the meeting.
That may be your decision, Chair, but other town council chairs allow members of the public to raise questions as appropriate at appropriate times. If that's your decision, I respect it. But sadly,
it's a decision of our standing orders that public participation is the only place where members of the public can speak, which you've been given the opportunity to do so. And we noted your comments, but actually during the meeting, the only way that you can actually take part in a discussion is if you're invited to do so, and it's business, it's appropriate for you to engage in that business. And at this time, I would ask that you mute while we complete this process, please.
Certainly, as I say, different councils vary. Thank you.
So I'm seeing you've all moved around the screen again. So I'm just thinking someone has left the meeting. I'm not sure who it is. So when they come back in, I will note that they come back in. they've come back into the meeting. I think it was our county councillor representative that's left, so I'm sure she will be back. Councillor Roll, do you wish to speak?
Yes, whilst I appreciate what Lizzie has said, the only thing that is confidential is the contents of the complaint. Everything else should be transparent, because we are a transparent council. Unless you wish to amend the standing orders, we are a transparent council, and this concerns the expenditure of public money. So therefore, while I appreciate your comments, Lizzie, Vicky, and I do appreciate them and take them on board, but the only thing that is confidential is the content of the complaint, not the fact that an actual complaint has been made or who it is against. And I have taken advice on that from SALC, from NAUC, from Silca, from just about everybody. And may I remind you that employee law also goes above all of that.
So again, I'd like to offer that out to council for any further comments before we discuss how we will record this particular motion. Then I will go back to page 3 to finish reviewing the minutes of the 13th. So in terms of recording this item on page 4 under 0044, can I ask for a comment in relation to how this is recorded that sits comfortably? I'm going to invite Councillor Gazine to speak.
I am more than comfortable with the wording that Lizzie has offered, and I think that is the most discreet in the circumstances, so I would be happy to vote for that.
Thank you. So does any Councillor Old, would you like to speak?
Yes, I'd just like to remind fellow councillors that this is written minutes. The evidence of this YouTube meeting is here. It will be used. So really what we put in the written word is irrelevant. All you're doing by not putting what I'm asking is just, again, highlighting the fact that you are trying to shut me down and mute me yet again. Thank you.
So Councillor Rogers now wishes to speak.
I've been on this council for 30 years and I've never known anything in the minutes trying to cover up. We've got to be open. We've got to, what we discuss has got to be put in writing and everybody can see it. I think it's getting a mess.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Would any of council like to speak at this time? Councillor Ralph, I'd like to invite you to speak.
Just to say, Chair, that I've proposed some wording which, you know, has had mixed reviews, that's fine, but someone needs to propose some wording if we're going to move this forward to a vote. So I've had a go, someone else needs to do that now.
Can you recite again the words you used and then we can adapt them accordingly?
Okay, so
with agreement.
I said I think we should record that Councillor Old attempted to bring something to our attention and it was believed that it was going to breach confidentiality, and as a result she was muted to protect the council. Is that fair?
So I would say that the record, this is just my, sorry, Councillor Hinks, I beg your pardon. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I've been on this council for about 15 years and I totally agree with what Councillor Rogers has said. This is a complete mess.
Thank you, Councillor Hinks. So the proposal we're looking at now is to recognise under 0044 that Councillor Old started to started to state she wished to discuss a complaint, and due to concerns over confidentiality, the chair stopped the conversation, whoever said that, stop the conversation to protect our duty of care to staff, which is paramount to everything, and equally paramount to that is the reputation of the council. And breaching of confidentiality in that way would have actually undermined not only our duty of care, but also the reputation of the council. So that's my...
And I'd like to make a counter proposal that everything needs to be transparent. And as I said, I have asked, and it is my legal right and duty of care as a town councillor for Wincanton Town Council and this town to ask for it to be recorded yet again, as I have asked. That I tried to raise a complaint that was given to me as the head of the personnel committee from a member of staff against our mayor. There's no breach of confidentiality there at all. The contents of the complaint are what's confidential, not the fact that a complaint has been made by a member of staff against the mayor. And that's what I wish to have recorded. And if anybody wants to second that proposal, I'd appreciate it.
Firstly, I'm going to invite Councillor...
Two proposals on the table. So let's take a vote on them, shall we?
Firstly, no. Can I invite Councillor Rogers to speak because he's asked to speak?
I agree with Dawn. Everything should be made open on this council. No cover-ups, which I think is being covered up. It's got to come to a head. And I don't like these cover-ups that we're trying to do. It's the complaint committee, the personnel committee was shut down. I don't know why, because I wasn't attending, but that should have been brought up just after the complaint was made, not carrying on months and months afterwards. I'm just don't know what this council's coming to.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rogers. So moving back to the point 004, page 4 of our minutes of the 13th of July. We are stating, as Councillor Old wishes to have, that you actually got to the point, I believe, if you watch the video back, there's YouTube, you got to the point where you said complaint and I stopped you. The reason for stopping you is because of confidentiality, duty of care, and the reputation of the council, because I was not clear what you were actually going to say. So in terms of recording the message...
You know very well what I was going to say.
No, I don't.
You do. And with regards to duty of care, as I've already said, we have a duty of care, not only to our staff and to this council, but to this town as well, to be open and transparent. And that's what I'm asking. So I've already said it. Lizzie's made a proposal. I have made a proposal. I don't think we need any further discussion. We need to take a vote on who wants to support what proposal.
Firstly, I am going to open it up because councillors do wish to speak and they're entitled to speak. So Councillor Ralph, you put your hand up and you put it down. Do you still wish to speak? And then Councillor Tudgay.
Sue, it's something I'll raise later in the agenda. It's an agenda point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tudgay.
Chair, all I want to say is that at this point in time, unless I've misread the situation, Councillor Ode doesn't have a seconder. So unless we get a seconder to Councillor Ode's proposal, we cannot take a vote on her proposal. That's just all I'd like to bring to fellow councillors' attention.
Thank you, Councillor Tudgay. So we have... Thank you, Councillor Old. I think I heard you supporting the comment that Councillor Tudgay made. Councillor Rogers, I'll just come to you, which I presume you're seconding the response. But first, we have two proposals on the table, one put forward by Councillor Ralph and one put forward by Councillor Old. So let's take them one point at a time. So in terms of people who have spoken, I'm going to go to you first, Councillor Old, because you spoke first, and ask that you propose that an amendment to the records will be made, that you requested to speak and put an agenda item on the meeting for this current meeting, which is the 27th of July, and you are unable to put that full proposal forward. And you've put that forward. Are you happy with the wording I've just used?
No, I've already made my wording and I've said it quite clearly, and this is now going to be about the 5th time I'm going to repeat
I
myself.
know, but I cannot remember all of what you've said on your proposal because
No,
it's quite
because you
wordy. So
keep
now
changing
may I
it.
ask Councillor Old to get the clerk, Deputy Clerk, to quote your proposal back, and then we'll go for a seconder. So Deputy Clerk, can I ask that you reiterate the proposal put forward by Councillor Old?
Right, Councillor Old mentioned that the only thing that she was trying to raise was the contents of the complaint. Everything, sorry, the only thing was confidential was the contents of the complaint. Everything else was everything else that the council does should be transparent.
That's not what the amendment was about, though, is it? That's the subsequent conversation. The amendment was that Councillor Old made a proposal as under agenda items for the next meeting to discuss a complaint, and at the word complaint, you were stopped. The detail of what was being said and why you were going to say it is slightly immaterial, because actually the issue is you wanted to put on the agenda. At this time it is, because we're not here to discuss that. What we're talking about is on the agenda for next time, you wish to include the agenda item of the complaint that you received when you were chair of the Personnel Committee. And that I stopped you when the word complaint was issued. So you're unable to complete.
So, Sue, I don't want to interrupt you, but let me do this for the 5th time. The precise wording that I wish to be added under items for the next agenda is that Councillor Old tried to raise the matter that it needed to be an agenda item for the next meeting, that there had been a complaint presented to me as head of the Personnel Committee that was from a member of staff and was about the mayor, and that it need to be discussed at the next meeting. And that's the precise wording that I want to propose, and Phil has already seconded twice now.
Okay, so we can include it in the items for the agenda that were not included. However, there are issues around confidentiality that I still raise, but we will include it. So it's proposed by you, Councillor Old, and I'm presuming the clerk has that wording clearly captured, and proposed by Councillor Rogers. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And now a vote from the floor in support of that proposal. So those councillors who wish to support that proposal. So I'm going to go around the room in terms of where you are on the screen currently. So I have Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Hearn, Councillor Smith, Councillor Edington, Councillor Old, in support of the proposal. And those against? So those against, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, and Councillor Power. And those abstaining, if there is anyone abstaining, which I don't believe there is. So in terms of the votes, Deputy Town Clerk, can I ask you to recite those that were for and against, and whether the motion was carried?
It was 6 in 4, 9 against, 2 abstentions, so it wasn't carried.
It wasn't carried. So how many were for, sorry?
6 in support.
6. And how many were against?
9.
And no abstentions. So the motion was not carried. Thank you. So Councillor Ralph proposed a motion to include in the minutes. So do you wish to continue with that proposal, or do you wish to withdraw it, Councillor Ralph?
Actually, I've listened to Councillor Old carefully, and I would like to propose it because I have changed the wording of it slightly. So please listen carefully. I propose that we add Councillor Old attempted to bring a complaint to the council's attention. The chair muted Councillor Old in order to protect the council from a breach of confidentiality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ralph. So that's the proposal being put forward by Councillor Ralph. Can I ask that Councillor Powers asked to speak?
I'll second Lizzie's proposal for that one.
Thank you. And now we move to a vote. So this is a vote against the proposal that Councillor Ralph has put forward. So those in support of Councillor Ralph's proposal. So myself, Councillor Ralph, myself, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, and those against. I'm going to start at the top and work down. So I have Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks. And then I have Councillor Edington, Councillor Old, who are against, and those that are abstaining. Councillor Hearn has abstained, and I can see no other councillor abstaining. So can I ask the Deputy Clerk to then propose to share the outcomes of that motion, please?
10 for, 4 against and 1 abstaining.
So 10 for, 4 against and 1 abstaining.
Yep.
So in this instance, am I correct in saying this, Deputy Town Clerk, that the second motion we put through by Councillor Ralph, apologies, has actually been supported and should therefore be included in the minutes?
Yes, it's been supported.
Thank you. So that was page 4. I'm going to go back to page 3 because we didn't actually finish page 3. So going back to the page that started 0040, can I ask, are there any amendments to this page 3 that wish to be put forward today? No?
No.
Okay, thank you. So having completed page 4, I'm now going to go back to the beginning of the minutes and now say we've gone through each of the amendments in turn and we voted on them individually. So now what I need is a proposer for the amended minutes and a seconder, and then we vote as council. So can I ask for a proposer? That's a Councillor Gazine, and a seconder for that proposal to support the minutes, Councillor Power, and a vote from council in support of the amended minutes we've just voted on. So I'm going to go around the room. So I have Councillor Ralph, myself, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power. Those against supporting the amendments and the minutes of the 13th of July 2020. And those abstaining. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Councillor Hinks. Did you put yourself up as?
Against.
Against. I apologise, I didn't see you there. So we have 1 councillor voting against. Is there any further councillors voting against? And if you have voted and I can't see you because the page moves around, please verbally say that what your vote is. So we have 1 against and those are abstaining, so not in terms of the minutes of the 13th of the 12th and their amendments. So I have, going round the room, Councillor Rogers is abstaining, Councillor Hearn, Councillor Smith, Councillor Edington, Councillor Old have abstained. So, Deputy Clerk, can I ask you to clarify the motion and the outcome?
9 for, 1 against, 5 abstain.
5, sorry, what was the one against, wasn't it? You just said, someone coughed, I missed it.
Sorry.
So,
for, 1 against and 5 abstain.
Thank you. So just for clarity purposes, The motion was carried that the minutes are signed off from the 13th of July with the amendments we previously voted on.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, so it is now 8 o'clock and we have a 2-hour limit on our meeting. So now what I'm going to do is look at the agenda items and then consider how we manage these going forward. So I'm going to be looking to Councillor Old.
Yes, excuse me. I did say at the beginning that I did have 4 points to raise. I've only covered one of them. So I'd now like to raise the rest of my points in connection with the meeting, the minutes.
The 13th of July meeting?
No, I did say, Sue, that I wanted to address the previous minutes, and that's why it should have been done before the minutes of the 13th of July. So I will now ask.
Well, what date of the minutes? Sorry, Councillor, for clarity purposes, what minutes are you relating to that we've already signed off, those minutes, or other minutes?
It's minutes you've already signed off, Sue.
So why would you like to revisit those minutes, Councillor Old? Because I'm not. Once we've signed those minutes off, they are a point of record.
Yeah. Well, Sue, if you give me the opportunity to speak, I will tell you why I want to revisit those minutes. And on the 8th of June, I asked for something to be recorded in the minutes with regards to the co-option. On the 22nd of June, you decided between you all, in your ultimate wisdom, to remove that statement from the minutes because you said it was a false statement. Here is the complaint. You've all had it. How is what I said a false statement? I wanted it added back into the minutes. They are a legal record. I am an elected councillor of this town. It is my legal right to ask for things to be recorded. Thank you.
Is that your last comment, or would you like to further comment on the minutes of that meeting?
Well, no doubt you'll come back to the fact that you don't think it breaches confidentiality and all of that. But as I remind you, YouTube, it is live, it stays on YouTube. So whatever you put in the minutes, it really doesn't matter. But I do want to raise the fact that you do keep trying to mute what I am trying to raise.
Thank you, Councillor Old. And now
well, have you not had a
there are
chance
two
to
councillors
spin
that
and
have.
lobby this one?
I'm sorry, but I don't know who spoke then, but we have two councillors who have requested to speak. So I'm first going to go to Councillor Ralph, who placed her hand up first.
I'd like to ask a question directly to Councillor Old, Chair, if you allow.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I recall what you're talking about, Councillor Old, because obviously I haven't been to many meetings yet. So I think it's easier for me to remember maybe. You're talking about what I still believe is a false statement. So if it's not, then please tell me otherwise. You said, and it was minuted, you're quite right initially before we amended it, that the council was being sued, currently being sued. Is that true? Because as a councillor currently, I'm not aware of that. Are we currently being sued? Is what I would like to know. Thank you.
Okay, currently being sued, maybe not, but you voted to remove my entire statement, Lizzie, and that is not on. My statement stated that the reason I didn't want to co-opt you and Brian was because the council was in a mess and we had impending legal action.
Right, thank you, Councillor Old. Firstly, there are a number of councillors who put their hand up. So before we move on, I'm going to actually invite individual councillors. So I'm going to go back to Councillor Ralph because she is responding to Councillor Old. Thank you. And then I note Councillor Edington placed her hand up and Councillor Hearn.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Old, I'm very clear about this because I think very carefully about how I vote. And you specifically, it was minuted. What was removed was the statement, the council is being sued, which is because it is a false statement, is why I voted to have it removed. What you just said is not what was removed at the time in the minutes. Thank you.
All of it was removed, Lizzie, all of it, when I had asked for something to be recorded.
Thank you, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Old. I'm now going to move to the two councillors who put their hands up. So Councillor Edington, can I ask you to speak?
You said that what Councillor Old had said was a false statement. I took it to be her opinion, and somebody's opinion, until such date as, you know, freedom of speech is gone, an opinion is still valid, whether it is agreed with or not. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'm going to invite Councillor Hearn to speak.
If I remember correctly, she said potentially being sued. I didn't think she said currently. I'm sure I heard potentially.
Said currently.
Thank you.
I'd have
We
to go
now
back
have
and
two
watch it again.
councillors. Sorry, Councillor Hearn. Beg your
I have
pardon?
to go back and watch it again, so I can't say, but I recalled potentially.
Okay, thank you. We also have a copy of the minutes as well, so we can refer to the minutes. Councillor, I'm going to Councillor Ralph and then Councillor Thomas, if you wish to speak.
Yeah, just to be clear, this isn't about actually, in a weird way, it's not even about what Dawn said, and it's not about her opinion. It's what was written in the minutes for us to vote on. And what was written in the minutes was council is being sued. And because that was factually incorrect, that was a false statement. If something else should have gone in, then it should have been proposed at the time that it wasn't this, it was something else, which makes it an unfalse statement, and then we would have voted on it. So I don't have a problem with what Councillor Old said necessarily. My problem is the fact that in the minutes it said a false statement. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Power.
With the minutes as well, when people read the minutes, whatever Councillor Old said is what she thinks in her opinion is absolutely fine. She's got freedom of speech because she's elected member of the council. But having an opinion may not be a true fact. And going out on Wincanton News and Views after the meeting and people wondering why we're being sued, they're thinking we're being sued, and it is not a true fact. And I just think it's wrong. And I just think we've all gone out of proportion of what this is being told. And I think going on to News and Views afterwards is totally wrong, in my opinion.
Thank you. So I'm going to, Councillor Old, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Tom, I appreciate what you've said, but you also took to your own Facebook for all to see. And what you and Vicky Vag said on your Facebook for all to see is also out of order, I'm afraid. So you can point the finger at me, but before you do so, you should take a look at your own Facebook.
Okay, so before we start going down the road of social media entirely, I am going to invite you to speak, Councillor Power. But what I would say is that we have a very clear policy about social media. We have a very clear policy about code of conduct, and we have a very clear policy that we're going to be revisiting tonight around other issues in terms of personnel. So, Councillor Power, can I invite you to speak?
I take what Dawn said. I do apologise. I'm new to this. I'm 18, well, I'm just 19 years old, and I expect this council to behave a bit more appropriately. But what I said on Facebook was true facts. Yes, I understand, Dawn, what you're saying. I shouldn't have pointed the finger. I do take that back. But what I stated was true facts. That's all I'm going to say.
What I said on Facebook, Tom.
But
I'm
sometimes it got taken in out of its context. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, I'm going to. I'm not stopping your freedom of speech, but
comments.
we're running close to actually having our council to actually acting in a way that's not appropriate. So people are entitled to state their view. They're entitled to make proposals, and they're entitled to vote for, against, in terms of motions in the agenda. What we do not wish to do in this meeting is breach confidentiality, and also to discuss things that are not appropriate to discuss in a town council meeting. And there are places for that to take place. So if anyone wishes to take anything further, you know the appropriate routes to take in terms of councillors, and that's been shared with you previously. So I'm now going to move to the point that's been put forward by Councillor Old. And what I'm going to say is Councillor Old has asked for an amendment to minutes that have already been signed off and voted on. I'm going to invite Councillor Tudgate to speak, and then I'm going to go to the clerk and ask for definition in terms of standing orders, please. Councillor Tudgay.
Can you hear me, everybody?
Not as well as I would like. Can you, is it possible you could turn it up slightly, Councillor Tudgay?
Not a chance. Still not used to the new laptop. I really don't see how we can go back on minutes that have already been approved, because if we do that in this instance, we're opening a complete can of worms where we could be I mean, we're here now 8:15 and we've done no business whatsoever.
Yep.
And we've got a lot of important business to deal with. And if we do this with this particular set of minutes, we will be doing it forever and a day with previous minutes where people don't agree with what was said or what was written. And I really think it's time to move on, get these minutes, the minutes of today approved, forget the minutes of several months ago or several weeks ago, and let's get on and conduct the business we're here for tonight. If we have problems with minute taking and what was said and what wasn't said, then this has to be brought forward to another agenda item. We really have a load of business here to do, and we must get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tudgay. And on that note, Councillor Old, I will offer you one more opportunity to speak, and then we must move on.
I'm happy, based on what Ray said, I'm happy to withdraw. In the interest of moving this meeting on, I'm happy to withdraw trying to amend previous meeting minutes.
Thank you. And our clerk, can you actually confirm you've noted that discussion has been withdrawn?
Yes, I've noted that. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. So we have the minutes of the 13th that have been formally ratified. We're now moving into the agenda. So unless there's anything else in terms of the minutes of the 13th, which have already gone through, I now move to planning. And I understand, Councillor Thomas, that we have no planning.
There is no planning.
There is no planning. Unusual times. So thank you very much. Are there any comments from South Somerset District Council, Deputy Clerk?
No.
No. Thank you. So in terms of planning, we're now moving on to point 5 on the agenda. But before we do so, recognising we have just over 45 minutes for the agenda, I'd now like to do a piece of rationalising on the agenda to actually consider what items we cover today that are important to cover and those that actually we move forward to the next meeting. So with that in mind, my proposal as chair is the items that stay on the agenda are the checklist, stakeholder group, personnel, policies, personnel committee, and AGAR. And neighbourhood plan. The finance committee can come back to a next meeting. The chalk painted distancing signs. I'd love to say, Councillor Hearn, that we discussed it today, but I'm concerned about time. So that may have to move forward. Back.
May I interrupt, please? They're going to go down the sports ground now anyway.
Okay, thank you for that. So you're now leaving the meeting?
Yeah, you can leave the meeting. They'll go down the sports ground.
Thank you. So Councillor Hearn is leaving the meeting at
No, I'm not going down the sports ground. The chalk painted signs are.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you said you were going down the. Oh, I apologise. All right. So with that in mind, we'll do the discharge of motion in a moment, and I'll ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm that. I apologise, I misheard you. Councillor Winder, we are covering neighbourhood plans, so we'll pick that up if you're waving that at me for a reason. No? We're going to move I would suggest that we move the lockdown plan and emergency plan forward to the next meeting because it's a large document, and also the item that was meant to be there, which is the working group, and we will leave correspondence on the agenda. So my proposal is, due to time constraints, we keep the reports on from District Council and County Council. Point 6, point 7, point 8, point 9, point 8A, A and 8A, point 9, point 10, and the other items down to be moved forward to the next meeting, with the exception of the chalk painted distance signs, and correspondence will be covered. So where's the clerk? Deputy Clerk, you've moved around again. In terms of a motion, if we're removing point 12 around the chalk painted distancing signs, that's a particular process that we need to follow. So how would you like that recorded, and what action do we need to take that's different to acknowledging and proposing that certain agenda items are moved forward to the next meeting?
With regards to the chalk signage, I will minute it that it will be going down the sports ground. The other items moving forward.
But it's a motion that's noted on our agenda. So to remove a motion, we need to formally do that.
Yeah, what I was going to say was we vote on
Yes.
items that are staying on the agenda now, and then we'll vote on the ones that the council are moving forward to the next agenda.
Okay, so with that in mind, the items that are staying on the agenda, point 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8A, and 9, and 10. Can I have a proposer and a vote that those remain on the agenda today? So Councillor Tudgay is proposing, and a seconder, please. Councillor Waters, and a vote, please, to keep those items on the agenda. So I have Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power. And those against? Councillor Old, are you voting? I can't hear you, sorry, you need to unmute.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, so there are
abstaining.
any, thank you, any councillors against? Any councillors abstaining? Which is Councillor Hearn and Councillor Old, which are you going to put your hand up so it's recorded, please? Councillor Old, if you're abstaining, thank you. Thank you. So those are the items that are remaining on the agenda. The items that are moving forward are the Finance Committee, the lockdown plan are moving forward. So can I have a proposer and a seconder to move that forward to the next agenda? Councillor Gazine is proposing. A seconder is Councillor Smith, and a vote from the floor to support those moving forward. So I have myself, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Vagg. Councillor Smith, are you itching your beard or are you voting? You're voting to move forward. And Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, and Councillor Old. Okay, thank you. And those against? And those opposed, those abstaining from voting or moving those items forward is Councillor Hearn. And I can see no other councillors. Councillor Ralph, did you vote? Because I don't remember you voting. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I voted for, but I was a bit.
You were late. Okay, so can I request that Councillor Ralph is added to the 4? So do you have, and now we need to consider point 12, which is the chalk painted distance signs, distancing signs. So how would you like to manage that, Clark?
With item 12, I'm going to report what Kirsten had said, that it's no longer will be going down the sports ground rather than town council matter.
So are you happy that that meets with standing orders?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Thank you. So let's move into the agenda because we've lost time and we need to move at pace. So I'm now going to invite the county councillor to speak and then the district councillor to speak. So Councillor Gostrop, you're not mute, you're still muted, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Groscott, the County Councillor. The majority of my work for the last month has been with One Somerset, chairing the meeting. A vote will go to full council at County on Wednesday to decide whether the case will go forward to the Secretary of State for the business case to be accepted. The Education Department have announced that all schools in our area intend to open from September. I have nothing else to report unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see no questions or no people raising hands to raise any questions. Can I now invite Councillor Winder to speak, please?
Yes, you made a comment about the planning. One of the biggest problems is that I think we only have 3 qualified planners in the district, which means that everything is a bit haywire. But the gentleman who came forward in the, what's his name, Julian Hamlin, it's going to get more and more difficult. The system that they're putting in place will reduce the amount of time that parish towns have to comment. And I think you ought to be very careful about how you deal with planning applications. They're going to be very restricted in how long you have and what you can say. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any comments from the floor? I can see no councillors raising a hand. So now myself, I'm available to make a comment, but at this time I do not wish to do so. And in terms of outside bodies, I'm not aware that any of the councillors have made a request to speak at this time. So if that is the case, I will move on. So we're going to move now to point 6 of the agenda, which is the checklist, and colleagues would have received the checklist prior to the meeting. So can I first ask for comment, any questions that would go to the Deputy Clerk in relation to checks? Councillor Tudgay.
Yes, I look in, there are 2 checks. Both for window cleaning. One is for the town hall and one is for what I assume to be the community office. And I was just wondering what the difference was and why there were 2 checks to different people to clean windows in both buildings.
Thank you. Good question.
So, Mr. Parfitt, he cleans the town hall windows, and DB Windows does the upstairs in the community office. So one does downstairs and the other one does upstairs. Okay.
Okay, that's as complicated as it gets. That's brilliant. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Tudgay? Thank you. Any further questions around checks? No? So can I ask for a proposer for the checklist for July 2020, please? Can I have a proposer? Councillor Power. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Tudgay. And can I have a vote in support of the checklist that's available to us today? Can you make sure your hand is clearly visual in the screen so I see you? So I'm going to start at the top and work round. So Councillor Ralph is in support, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Greening, Councillor Hearn, Councillor Smith, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, Councillor Old. Councillor Gazine, are you voting to support the checklist? Councillor Gazine?
Oh, sorry.
Are you voting to support the checklist? We've had a proposer and a seconder.
Yeah.
Thank you. So anyone not against the checklist you want to vote against? No. Abstain? No. So Deputy Clerk, have you recorded that? Are you happy with that as a motion, outcome of the motion?
Yeah, I've recorded that.
Thank you. So the next part of the agenda is we need 2 volunteers to sign checks tomorrow. So you're one of the nominated people who've completed the paperwork to actually to sign checks on behalf of Wincanton Town Council. So can I have 2 named people to put themselves forward to attend tomorrow? I have Councillor Hinks and Councillor Waters. Thank you very much. So you'll attend tomorrow to sign checks.
Yeah.
And you've recorded that, Deputy Clerk? Yes.
Yes, it's recorded.
Thank you. So now we're moving to one of the more exciting elements of our agenda, not that they aren't all very stimulating, is the stakeholder group. And all of you are aware, as part of the precept, we signed off a town initiative pot. Within that town initiative pot, Councillor Old is re-entering the meeting. So we signed off in a town hall initiative pot, which incorporated 10 hours for a member of staff that's included in our broader precept, an additional 10 hours as part of the bigger pot that was minuted as part of precept. So going forward, the Good Stuff Fund and all the papers associated with the town initiative budget have been through council and ratified before the end of the financial year 1920. And today I'd like to invite councillors who've sponsored bids from the recent meeting held on the 7th of July, minuted by the Deputy Clerk in her role supporting the Good Stuff Fund and the Town Initiative Pot, to now speak. So firstly, what I'm going to do is give time to One Planet, the Councillor Vagg, to prepare, and also Councillor Tudgay to prepare. And I'm going to invite Sue Place, who leads on the Bolson Centre, to talk directly to the bid related to that. So firstly, can I invite Councillor Vagg to speak in relation to the proposals for One Planet?
Well, it's just one of the One Planet things, the Repair Cafe. And Jane Langton has very kindly come along today to answer any questions that I might not be able to. But the idea is for a repair cafe where we repair things instead of throwing them away, which is a good sustainable point. We're hoping to have the cafe once a month, once every 6 weeks, whatever turns out to be reasonable, to invite people with skills to come along and to invite the public to come along with their broken bits and pieces or things that need mending, and either to have them mended or to be shown to themselves how to mend them. So it'll be a chance for people to learn skills. There'll be a cafe there, and that will bring money into the place. There are two, I think 3, I don't know the names, but there are 3 venues that have offered space for this to take place. And obviously it won't be quite yet. We're going to have to wait for COVID to go away a bit more. But I just think it's a really good idea. I've got a lamp that needs mending for sure.
Thank you. So in terms of the Repair Cafe, it's a setup grant for One Planet Wincanton who are seeking £1,000 towards the project, which will benefit Wincanton residents and the surrounding area. The cafe is open to members of the public, and it will be supported by volunteers that offer opportunities for learning new skills. And the proposal was supported by the stakeholder group and therefore recommended. So what I'd like to now do, Councillor Hearn, you would like to speak.
Sorry, I just think, Vicky, are you part of One Planet? Are you part of One Planet?
Yes.
I was just going to say, in the interest of after the whole Christmas tree thing, did you declare an interest?
Oh, sorry, as there's no money involved, I didn't, and I apologise.
It is about money though, isn't it?
The grant is about money, but it's not anybody I wouldn't have a pecuniary interest in it.
But you do have an interest. I think there's a...
Okay, well,
well, the other thing I was
if
going to
that counts as a pecuniary interest, then yes, I should have said, and I apologise.
And the other thing I was going to say, sorry, I'll probably have to check with Muriel, I'm not really sure, but isn't Sam the responsible financial officer?
I'm sorry, can I just, what are you clarifying, Councillor Hearn, so I'm clear on what you're
Sam is the responsible financial officer as one of her titles. With her
Yes.
not being at work, I'm not sure that Muriel's got. Are you allowed to release them, Muriel, or not?
Police what?
The funds for the grants.
May I just clarify, today, the proposals are coming forward that have been recommended by council under the regulations that were agreed by council, and no funding will be released if supported by council today. This is part of a process, and when the right time comes, and if it's supported, then the monies will be released in the format that meets our requirements as a council, because they were ratified by council. I'm going to invite Councillor Ralph to speak, and then I'm going to invite the Deputy Clerk to clarify that point.
Just to say, I don't want to steal Muriel's thunder, but I've been learning the standing orders, and 16A, just to put our mind at rest, says the council shall appoint appropriate staff members to undertake the work of the responsible financial officer when the responsible financial officer is absent. So okay, as long as we appoint someone, if they're still absent at that time.
Thank you for that, but that's not what we're here to do today. Can I just confirm, sorry, Councillor Hearn, may I just finish my sentence, and then I will invite you and any other councillors who wish to speak. This is an opportunity for council to hear the first Good Stuff Fund bids that have come through. They came through the formal process that was ratified by council. We are here today to listen to those recommendations and to vote accordingly as a council in support of that. The next step in terms of agreeing how the money, if supported, is released will be discussed with the Deputy Clerk and the clerk when available to ensure we meet standing orders. So today is to listen to the recommendation. So if I can ask at 2032 that council leave questions to the end so that the presentations can be completed, and then we will clarify the points with the Deputy Clerk. So thank you, Councillor Vagg, for presenting in accordance with our phase 1 plan, the repair cafe. Do you want to speak further, Councillor Vagg?
Just to say, I presume then if I do have an interest that I mustn't vote.
Yes, but we will clarify that with the Deputy Clerk before we take any votes. So what we're now listening to is the proposals that have come forward, and then we will vote on each one in turn when we've clarified the process. So can I invite now Councillor Tudgate to speak to the One Planet Picnic Park, please?
Good evening, everybody. Most of this has been through council before. I've spoken on several occasions in support of One Planet actions they want to carry out. I'll do them both together. Part is some planting in Cassius Park, and the second bit is to do some planting in the upper picnic area adjacent to the car park by the co-op. As I've said, most councillors should be aware of what they want to do. I fully support their work, and I know Victoria is here with us tonight if there are any questions you want to ask directly of her. The bit by the picnic park does involve some expenditure by the town council in putting in a path, so I would suggest that that part will have to wait until our next precept. So I think it would be wise to allow them to get on with the planting if council so wishes, and go from there. It's mainly to plant wildflowers in patches in Cassius Park, and very similar in the picnic area to create biodiversity and so forth. And as I said, Victoria's here. If there's any questions, ask Victoria, please.
So can I just clarify, that's Cassius Park and the picnic in the park?
No, the picnic area.
Pardon?
The picnic area.
Picnic area. Both of those are part of the
Yes.
planting proposal.
Yes.
One is 500 and one is 350.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. So council is just presenting the proposal that was put forward to the stakeholder group today. So now can I invite Sue Place from the Bolton Centre to speak about the fourth proposal, which is Wincanton Community Venture. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so this is the core project, and hopefully everybody has read the application. So just to reiterate that the Balsam Centre works for the whole community, but we do of course have some target groups within the community, and young people who don't fit into recognised academic or social models are one of our target groups, particularly where they have difficulties in accessing education or get left behind or become invisible. They very often have fantastic skills and talents and interests, but they can get lost either during education or after education. So that's a group that we want to try and pick up and bring into the fold, really. And COVID has presented us with opportunities to make some changes through the, not necessarily COVID is linked to Wincanton Town Council, but it's going to work very well with the radical agenda that the Town Council has, in that we can use this energy that the young people will bring to help transform what's happening in the town, and also hopefully provide a model across South Somerset. I don't know how much you want me to go into it, but I think it's really important to sort of mention the localism agenda, which I think we're trying to pursue through the Good Stuff Fund. Lots of different things that we can bring into this, but if you want to ask any questions, please do.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue Place, for presenting that. So for clarity purposes, I'm going to engage the Deputy Clerk now. So those councillors that were sponsoring in terms of presenting, not having any monetary or other commitment to the proposal, took that through the stakeholder group as part of supporting the individuals to come forward. There was no, and my understanding is, as part of the Good Stuff Fund and in the year one plan, although there's nominated councillors and it went through council and we discussed it, at no point was any issue raised. So what I now want to understand from the Deputy Clerk is, what do the three councillors, including myself, who sponsored the Balsam Centre around the proposal, and Councillor Vagg, not in monetary or any other, but listening to and supporting them. Oh, you're there. Someone's just left the meeting, so I'm sure they will return. I'm just not clear who's left the meeting at the minute. Can you clarify for standing orders what the requirement is?
I think when it comes to a vote, the ones who have put forward the proposals, they should have declared an interest about each proposal. But when it comes to voting, to abstain from voting on each one.
Okay, so when it went through council, that wasn't clarified when we actually took it through council in, I think it was January, February time. So as a point of clarity, yes, Councillor Tudgay.
I really don't understand that, Chair. I mean,
no, I don't either. But
all I've done is sponsor, as a councillor, the One Planet proposals. I have no interest. I am not a member of One Planet. I've just presented their case and supported their case. And I really don't see why I should be excluded from voting either for or against that case. And I can see no reason, and having read standing orders, I can see nothing in standing orders that would prohibit me from voting. And I'm sorry, I have to disagree with the clerk on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I open it up to council now? Because that was my understanding of standing orders. Are there any other comments from the floor? Yes, Anna, would you like to, Councillor Gosgrove, would you like to speak?
If I may, if it assists at all, I've been chair of standards at Somerset District Council, and I've been on standards in County Council. You have no monetary gain to make. And actually what you describe is the work that a normal councillor would do. If you don't let them take part, what is the point of being a councillor? I really don't understand why you would not vote for something that you believe in. Thank you.
So can I just ask, from your understanding as well, do we need to, because we were just supporting, not doing a thing, do we need to declare it as an interest? Because I do not believe that is the case, but if I stand in correction if it is the case.
I've never heard it be the case.
No,
before.
I haven't. So with that, Councillor Hearn, do you wish to speak to this item? Thank you.
Yeah, I only asked if Vicky, because I'm sure she was a member of One Planet. I didn't mention anybody else. I just asked Vicky.
But that I still would struggle. That is maybe saying declaring an interest, but that isn't any other monetary gain that I'm
I didn't say it was
understanding.
monetary gain. I just said she was a member and should have declared an interest. That was all.
Okay.
As I understood it, that was it. I don't know where she is.
Okay. She's the one that's dropped out of the meeting, I think. So in that case, oh, one moment, she's just coming back in. So let me just admit her. Okay. She's just. Hello, Councillor Vag. What we're just clarifying is there is no, you may well, and I still question that, may need to declare your interest in as a member of One Planet. But however, in terms of any peculiar interest, I take the view of our colleague from County Council that there is none to declare. So in that light, I'm understanding that as council, we can all vote on each element of the proposals put forward today from One Planet and from the Bolson Centre. And we could then decide post this meeting how, if supported, how that money would then be released. So the proposal is for, and actually, do I need to vote on that as a change? Clerk, Deputy Clerk, do I need to vote on that we, at this time, do not recognise the peculiar interest for us as councillors because we do not have any interest in any of the proposals. That Councillor Vag has declared a declaration of interest in terms of being a member of One Planet. And perhaps what I should have clarified before we started is the structure that we were working in. But as your comment, Deputy Clerk, we have not, we do not support that because we understand that not to be the case around the peculiar interest. Do you need us to vote on that, or are you taking that as a statement?
I'll take it as a statement. As there's no pecuniary interest, then you're allowed to vote.
Thank you. You're taking it as a statement.
Yep.
So firstly, let's go with the first one from the two from One Planet. Let's take them one at a time, if I may. So Cash's Park, £500 towards planting of native and local wildlife, amongst other issues. I won't go into full detail. Do I have a proposer for that? Councillor Tudgay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Thomas, and do I have a vote in support of that proposal? And can you make yourself clearly seen? So I have Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, and Councillor Vag. And those against? And those abstaining? So I have no against, but 2 abstaining, which is Councillor Hearn and Councillor Old. So Deputy Clerk, can you confirm the motion, please?
We've got 13 for, No against, 2 abstains.
Thank you. So the motion is carried.
Yes.
Thank you. One Planet picnic area. Can I have a proposal, please? Proposer. I have Councillor Gazine. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tudgate. And do I have a vote? So a vote in supporting the proposal of the picnic park. So Councillor Ralph, sorry, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgate, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, Councillor Vagg. Those against? And those abstaining? So those abstaining are Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Hearn and Councillor Old. Can you confirm the motion, please?
It's 11-4, 4 against, and the motion's carried.
Thank you. The final one is Wincanton Community Event.
Sorry, can I just clarify that? Muriel, you just said I was against. I wasn't. I abstained.
4 abstained.
So that's 11-4, 11-4 and 2 again, abstaining, sorry, and no voting against.
No, can I say that again? It's 11-4, no against, 4 abstaining.
4 abstaining. Oh, I beg your pardon, Councillor Rogers and Councillor Hinks.
Yes.
My apologies. Community Venture, Bolton Centre. Yes, Councillor Vagg.
That made 16.
Right, so the maths has gone
11
awry.
and 4.
11 and 4.
So 4 were abstaining, no against. So if that's the case, for all those, the abstainers were Councillor Old, Councillor Rogers and Hinks and Councillor Hearn. Those, there were no others against. So those 4 were Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgate, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power and Councillor Vagg. Am I correct in that? If I wrongly recorded you, please say. No. So the motion is?
Carried.
Carried. And how many?
Motion's carried. It was 11-4 and 4 abstaining.
Thank you. So in that context, in terms of the proposal, are you happy to record the motions for each one of those, Deputy?
Yes.
And what we will then do, as it's been supported, we will be in contact with you in due course around how it will move forward in terms of releasing the money when we've clarified that position. Are you happy with that, Clerk? Deputy Clerk?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? So we've gone through each proposal in turn. We've I'll invite Councillor Tudgate and Councillor Ralph, and then Councillor Old.
Sorry, Chair, I think we've only voted on 2 of the proposals, as my understanding. We have 2 more proposals to vote on. We have the Repair Cafe and the Balsam Centre one.
Yeah.
So I had the motion for the Cashes Park carried, the motion for the picnic park carried, the Repair Cafe and Wincanton Bolton Centre.
We've only voted twice. We've only voted twice. We still have
can I ask for the clerk, Deputy Clerk, to clarify, please?
Only voted for Cashes Park and the picnic area. The next one you were talking about was Wincanton Community Venture. That's as far as you got.
So we haven't done the Repair Cafe, is what you're saying?
No, that's right.
I apologise. That was I've written the wrong numbers in the wrong place. So that was my error. Thank you for picking that up, councillors, and making me aware. So can we then, so if we've covered Cashes Park, Picnic in the Park and the Bolton Centre, the final one is the Repair Cafe. So, yes, Councillor Rao.
We haven't done the Bolton Centre either, Chair.
Have we not?
No. It's okay. We've got 2 to do.
Thank you. Thank you. My apologies. So let's do the repair cafe first. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Power. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Thomas. Are you wishing to speak? You're seconding. Seconding. And can I have a vote in support? So going around the room, we have Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, and Councillor Vag. Those against? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Hinks are against, and I can see no other hands. And abstaining? Councillor abstaining is Councillor Hearn, and Councillor Old, did you vote? Did you abstain? Because I didn't see you.
Sorry,
voting.
I couldn't get my thing on the button then. I did abstain, sorry.
Okay.
Do you want me to put my hand back up?
No, that's fine. So we have 2 abstentions. Have you recorded that, please? Councillor, the Deputy Clerk, can you confirm the votes, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a message that keeps popping up, which means you automatically read it, which actually causes distraction, but very, very good points nevertheless. Deputy Clerk, can you confirm?
Right. There's 10 for, 2 against and 3 abstentions.
Thank you. So that's for the repair cafe. Are we all in agreement? So the final one is the Bolson Centre. So can I have a proposer for the Bolson Centre? And I declare I have an interest in terms of, sorry, before we propose, I declare I have an interest only in the fact that I supported the Bolson Centre. I have no other declaration to make in terms of as a councillor in the Year 1 plan. So can I have a proposer, please, to support the application? That's Councillor Greening. Can I have a seconder, which is Councillor Thomas? And can I have a vote from the floor if you support? So if you support the Bolson Centre application, it's Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Power, Councillor Vag are in support. Those against? So I have against Councillor Rogers and Councillor Hinks and Councillor Old, and abstaining is Councillor Hearn. So I believe that's a full set. Can you confirm the motion, please, Deputy Clerk?
4 is 10, 3 against and 2 abstained. Sorry, 1
Thank you.
abstained.
Pardon? Pardon? Sorry.
4.
10 people were for, 3 people were voting against, and 2 abstained. I thought only
And
Councillor
2
Hearn has abstained.
Yes,
Can we be consistent in our voting, please? So my understanding is, can we just confirm 10 were for, 3 were against, which I understood it to be Councillor Rogers, Councillor Hinks and Councillor Old, and 1 abstained, which was Councillor Hearn. The Deputy Clerk is frozen at the moment. So,
Madam Chair?
Sorry. Yes, Councillor Gazine.
I think you missed calling me out the first time.
Oh, did I? So that's 11.
Yes, I didn't hear my name.
That means that that's correct. So it's 11 for, 3 against, and 1 abstaining, which is Councillor Hearn.
Yes.
Thank you. So in terms of process, we've thank you for those that provided an overview of the projects. Can I just ask that a summary of the correspondence that was shared today is included in the narrative, and we obviously had the more detailed discussion as part of the recommendations to go alongside the proposals. Is there anything else at this time you need, Deputy Clerk, before we move on?
No.
Thank you. So thank you for that, and thank you for those members of the public who came to speak today. You're welcome to stay, as are all residents who take part in this meeting, or you're welcome to leave. It's your choice at this time. We're now moving to point 8 on the agenda. Now, these two items in the last 5 minutes is probably going to be difficult to achieve. So I'm going to put another motion in now. And I would like councillors to consider it, because our standing orders say 2 hours, and we're now at 4 minutes towards that 2-hour period. So the proposal is that we extend the meeting to cover key aspects of this agenda, and they are the personnel policies, personnel committee, and AGAR. The proposal also is to extend, though, to cover those items only, and to move the neighbourhood plan forward to the next meeting. So can I have councillors' view on extending till we complete points 8, 8A and 9, please? And the items of correspondence and items for the next agenda can actually have already been shared in terms of correspondence and can be shared on email. So proposer, please. Can I have a proposer to extend the meeting to enable us to complete these key parts of the agenda? Councillor Ralph, sorry, has proposed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Waters has second. Do I have a vote from the floor in support?
Sorry, before we take the vote, can I actually put a second proposal on the table? I'd actually like to say, can we carry it all forward to the next meeting? This has been a really long and very draining meeting, and there's stuff going on the side. I think Colin's trying to hold up a message. I'm really struggling to concentrate right now, to be honest.
So can I just, Councillor Tudgay, we are at 57, please.
I, strangely enough, tend to agree with Councillor Ode. I really think nearly lost the will to live, to be honest with you. I think we should try and pencil in another meeting to specifically deal with the 2 items of personnel. I really do think, because it's quite obvious to me from what has already happened this evening and what's been said, and that these 2 items could take an hour, if not 2 hours on them their own. I really do think, as much as I don't want another meeting, we really ought to pencil in a meeting specifically for those 2 items.
So can I, before I take your question, Councillor Hearn, can I speak to the Deputy Clerk, please? In terms of penciling in a meeting, I'm actually considering proposing an extraordinary meeting just for the purposes of personnel. It won't be a closed session. It will be purely focused on the agenda items, which is personnel policies, personnel committee, and AGAR, which is actually an issue that also needs to be put at, because we are potentially in breach of AGAR because it hasn't been submitted within the time frame required, and there's no correspondence with council on how that's being managed by the responsible officer. So I would like to propose that I've already said the neighbourhood plan to move forward, along with the neighbourhood plan to move forward. However, what I would like to do is propose an extraordinary meeting, so it's 3 days working notice, to hold point 8, point 8A and 9, due to the importance of those issues for council, for staff, and for making sure that we cover transparency within our duty of care as councillors, elected councillors, and as a council body. So the proposal is that we move the neighbourhood plan forward. Do we need to vote on that again, Deputy Clerk, or can we take it as one motion? Deputy Clerk? We're now at 2100 hours. Please can I ask for the Deputy Clerk to respond? Councillor Tudgay, while the Deputy Clerk is capturing.
I just feel that we should take all 3 items as one and propose that we hold an extraordinary meeting as soon as possible to cover our liability under AGAR. And that really is it. I don't think we need any other vote. We need a proposer, which I'm quite willing to propose.
Thank
we need
you.
A seconder.
A seconder with Councillor Ralph. And can I ask that there is a vote from the floor to support?
We've got a couple of people want to speak, I think, Sue.
Before we move to vote, can I ask who would wish to speak at 2100 hours? No one wishes to speak. I can't see any hands going up. So the proposal is by Councillor Tudgay that we hold an extraordinary meeting to discuss points 8A and points 9, and that the point 10 moves forward to the next available meeting. Proposal, Councillor Tudgay. The seconder was Councillor Smith. Ralph, sorry, I beg your pardon, but Councillor Ralph. And the vote from the floor, please, to support that motion. Can I do that at 1 minute past 2100 hours? So
Chair.
Councillor Ralph.
Chair, the clerk isn't on the call anymore, just so you know. That.
So in the event that the clerk is not on the call, can I ask that councillors note the meeting and note the request, and we will note the outcome of this motion to share with the clerk, because we do not require a clerk to be present as long as we follow due process. And due process is that we propose, we second, and we vote. And we're clear on the proposal, which is an extraordinary meeting for points 8A and 9, and to move forward point 10 to the next available meeting. Councillor Tudgay, do you wish to speak, or are you still voting?
I'm voting.
Councillor Tudgay is proposing, and at 2100 hour, Councillor Vagg seconded, and a vote from the floor is Councillor Ralph, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Rogers, Councillor Greening, Councillor Hearn, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Old, Councillor Vagg, and Councillor Power. Can we record that? Can I request that the Deputy Chair records that motion in terms of support? I'm not aware that anyone's opposed it. If you have, can you state it now? And have anyone voted against it? Or abstained, sorry. No. So the proposal is carried. It's 21:02. I'm now closing the meeting. I thank you for your time, and we will be in contact in due course with the agenda for this meeting. Thank you
all very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.